Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Listen to English podcast. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Amy. We are so happy to have you with us today for another episode focused on improving your English and your life.
That's right, Amy. And today, we are diving into a topic that many of you have asked about: how to talk to anyone. It sounds simple, right? But sometimes starting a conversation can feel like climbing a mountain.
Absolutely, Ryan. We've all been there. You see someone you want to talk to, maybe at a party, at work, or even just waiting in line for coffee. But then your mind just goes blank, or you start feeling nervous and unsure of what to say.
Exactly. That feeling of nervousness in conversations is so common. It's like there's a little voice in your head saying, "Don't say anything silly. What if they don't want to talk to you? What if you say the wrong thing?" It can be really tough.
It's funny, isn't it? We talk to people all the time, every day. We talk to our families, our close friends. But when it comes to talking to someone new, or someone we don't know very well, suddenly it feels like a big challenge.
And it's not just about language skills, even though that's what we focus on here at Listen to English podcast. Even native English speakers feel nervous sometimes. Think about it. Walking up to someone you've never met and starting a chat. It takes courage, no matter what language you speak.
That's so true. And I think one of the biggest problems many of us face is overthinking. We start imagining all the possible ways the conversation could go wrong. We worry about sounding boring or not being interesting enough. We build it up in our heads to be this huge, scary thing.
Overthinking is definitely a conversation killer. It's like we get stuck in our own heads instead of being present in the moment and actually listening to the other person. And another common problem is that dreaded blank mind. Someone asks you a simple question like, "How's your day going?" And suddenly you can't think of anything to say. It's like all your words just disappear.
Oh, I know that feeling so well. It's like your brain just hits a wall. And then you just say something really simple like, good. And the conversation kind of just stops there. It's so frustrating when you know you wanted to say more, but you just couldn't find the words in that moment.
We're going to focus on those first steps, those initial moments when you want to connect with someone.
And the great news is, it's really about changing how you think about conversations. It's about shifting your mindset. It's not about being perfect or saying the most amazing, clever things. It's about connecting with another person.
That's a perfect way to put it, Amy. And the first mindset shift we want to talk about is realizing that everyone is equal. Sometimes when we feel nervous, it's because we put the other person on a pedestal. We think they are somehow better, more interesting, or more important than we are.
Yes, we might see someone and think, oh, they look so confident or they seem so successful. And then we start to feel intimidated. We start to compare ourselves before we even say a word.
It's like we create this imaginary hierarchy in our minds. We put ourselves down here, and we put the other person up there. And when you feel like you are below someone, it's much harder to feel comfortable and confident talking to them.
But the truth is, everyone is just a person. Everyone has their own worries, their own insecurities, and their own stories. Whether they are a CEO, a famous artist, or just someone you meet at the bus stop, they are still just a human being.
Exactly. And telling yourself this simple thing, "No one is above me and I am not above anyone else," can make a huge difference. It helps to level the playing field in your mind. It reminds you that you are just as worthy of having a conversation as anyone else.
It's about seeing conversations as a connection between two people, not as some kind of performance or test. You are not trying to impress someone or prove your worth. You are simply trying to connect and share a moment with another person.
And this is especially important for our listeners who are learning English. Sometimes learners can feel like native English speakers are somehow superior, or that they are being judged on their language skills every time they speak.
Yes, that's a big worry for many learners. They might think, oh, they are native speakers, they will speak perfectly, and I will make mistakes. And that fear of making mistakes can really stop them from even trying to start a conversation.
But it's so important to remember that native speakers are not above you. They are just people who happen to speak English as their first language. They are not necessarily better at conversations or smarter or anything like that. They are just people.
And native speakers make mistakes too. Everyone stumbles over their words sometimes, or says something a little silly. It's just part of being human and having a conversation. It's not a test, and there are no right or wrong answers.
Exactly. So try to drop that idea that native speakers are somehow better than you. You belong in the conversation just as much as anyone else. Your thoughts, your ideas, your stories are all valuable and worth sharing.
And once you start to shift your mindset and see everyone as equals, the next hurdle is often knowing what to say. We talked about that blank mind problem earlier. So, how can we prepare ourselves so we don't get caught off guard and end up just saying good?
Well, one really simple trick is to prepare a few topics in advance. It doesn't have to be a script, but just having a few ideas in your head can make a big difference. Think about those common, everyday questions people ask, like, how's your week been? Or, what's new with you?
Those are classic conversation starters, aren't they? But they can also be conversation stoppers if you haven't thought about what you want to say. It's so easy to just default to, it was fine, or nothing much.
Exactly. But instead of just saying fine, take a few moments to think about your week. Did you do anything interesting? Did you learn something new? Did you try a new restaurant or watch a good movie? Just having a couple of highlights ready to share makes starting a conversation so much easier.
That's such a great tip. It's like doing a little mental check in with yourself before you go out. Just think, okay, what's been going on in my life lately that might be interesting to talk about? It doesn't have to be anything amazing, just something real and relatable.
And you can even write things down if that helps you. Some people keep a journal or a notebook, and they jot down everyday stuff that happens to them. This can be a great way to recall interesting things when someone asks you, what's new?
That's a fantastic idea. It's like creating your own personal conversation starter bank. And for our listeners who are learning English, this is a golden trick. Think about a TV show you watched, a fun activity you did, or even just how your day has been. And practice talking about it in English.
Yes, practice saying a few sentences about these things out loud. That way, when someone asks you, what's new in English, you won't be caught off guard. You'll have something prepared and you'll feel much more confident.
And even if you didn't prepare anything in advance, don't worry. Sometimes the best way to start a conversation is just by noticing what's around you. Using your surroundings can be a really natural and easy way to break the ice.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. You're both in the same place, experiencing the same thing. That's instant common ground. You can comment on the weather, the music, the coffee, anything that's happening in that moment.
I remember once I was waiting in a long line at a cafe, and I just turned to the person next to me and said, "Wow, the line's long today." It was such a simple, obvious comment, but it led to a really nice chat.
Exactly. It's about observing something you both share in the moment and turning it into a simple comment. It feels natural and not forced because it's based on reality. You're not searching for the perfect topic. You're just reacting to what's in front of you.
And the beauty is, it works anywhere. At a cafe, in a class, at the gym, even on the bus. Just noticing your surroundings and turning it into a simple question or comment can instantly open the door to a conversation.
And for anyone practicing English, this is such a useful tool. You don't need fancy words or complicated grammar. Just observe and ask simple questions like, have you been here before? Or, I love your jacket, where did you get it?
It's all about finding that common ground, that little connection point. The goal isn't to impress someone with your amazing vocabulary or your brilliant ideas. It's to connect with another person. even for just a few minutes. And sometimes that one simple line about the weather or the long line is all it takes to break the ice and let the conversation flow.
That's so true. And here's something else we often forget. Talking is a skill. Like any skill, the more you use it, the better you get at it. It might feel awkward or difficult at first, but with practice, it becomes easier and more natural.
Absolutely. I used to avoid random chats because I felt awkward and unsure of myself. But once I started making a conscious effort to just try, even with quick hellos and small comments, it got easier over time. And with that, we're wrapping up today's episode. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe. Your support means the world to us. See you next time.
Yes, it really helps us keep creating more content for you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.